So, welcome everyone, and definitely I should thank, first of all, the organizers of this event, and it is growing, and definitely it addresses, the conference, the 59th conference, critical issues of our times, and environmental issues basically plague us, and we have had really a number of interesting and informative talks. Hopefully those would become available to the general public and the university community and the participants. So I welcome those of you who have basically made the time to come. This panel would be called, as it is called, Ecolinguistics, and the prominent basically role would be given to the Kurds and the ways in which Kurds basically play a significant role, not only in the local environment of Kurdistan, but also globally. For our panel, we have basically three speakers, two, Ali Ashuri, whom I would introduce very briefly, who would be with me co-presenting the Kurdish ecolinguistics, and Dilsha would be introducing basically Shah Maran, a book that she has recently published. Probably she has more extensive knowledge about Kurdish nature and the role that women in particular have played in this natural connection between the environment and the Kurdish basically society as it is now. So she will give us an insight into that. So let me begin the panel. Definitely questions would be appreciated. If those questions are put in the chat, we would have about 15-20 minutes of the remaining time for your questions, and the participants would be welcome to answer the questions. And the audience basically would be appreciated if they participate actively. So with that introduction, I am a lecturer at Cal State Long Beach. I've been there since basically immemorial times, since ancient times. So I teach a variety of courses. I specialize in literacy, in Persian and Kurdish, and definitely oral traditions. Kurdish oral traditions play a significant role in my scholarly work. And I do basically publish occasionally. I advocate human rights, language rights in particular. This is an area that I specialize in. Let me just read a short review of my co-presenter, Ali Ashuri. Could you make yourself known? Anyway, Ali Ashuri is a very close friend of mine. Let me just read this. He is a lecturer with specialties in linguistics at San Diego State University. He specializes in Iranian and European literature, modern and continental philosophy, and film at California State University, San Diego. He is the author of essays on linguistics. His research in Mitraism from the perspective of Iranian languages is in publication at the University of Santa Fe, and he has published and attended several conferences, some of which with me, about poetry and songs of protest. He has translated Kurdish and English poems for various literary magazines inside and outside of Iran. Ali Ashuri has been a guest speaker in many national and international conferences on various subjects, such as language and democracy in San Diego, music and language, Netherlands, film and philosophy in France, and a variety of topics in the annual, for instance, CSULB, which both of us actually have been attending somewhat consistently ever since we found out basically what the CSULB comparative literature is, and our heart really lies with literature, so to speak. So with that introduction, let me bring in the PowerPoint presentation. It is called Ecolinguistics, and definitely Ali is going to jump in whenever basically he feels like it. The need for ecolinguistics is really an issue that this conference has brought up. We will vaguely talk about the methodology being used. Selected basically poems would be presented as examples of really how the Kurdish poets deal with the environment. And there would be some kind of analysis and a coda. Now, there is basically a Kurdistan shepherd flute, which probably will wait until the end, and we will watch this. The Kurds and ecolinguistics have a very intrinsic and natural connection with the land, the animals, the plants, and other human beings since ancient times. Nature and ecology symbolize the essence of Kurdish lifestyle. And probably, those of you who are familiar with Native Americans, we are more like Native Americans, and our relationship basically mystically is quite different, but our connection would be the same. The landscape is considered the most sacred, as reflected in the national anthem. The national Kurdish anthem reads as our faith, our religion, everything is the homeland. It's the nature of the homeland. In Kurdish mythology, nature in its diverse basically forms includes sacred mountains, rivers, trees, and lakes. They embody sacred spirits or even the souls of ancestors. And sacred tree was a part of a holy landscape. And this is basically a tree envisioning basically that sanctity. What is interesting is that kind of connection with nature has been maintained throughout the ages. Here we have Kurdishness or Kurdish identity as reflected in the Yarasan sacred music. The mystical vision of Kurdistan is alive and well, something that Dilshah would address in her presentation. It is reflected in everyday interactions in the songs, music, proverbs, and literary texts, both prose and poetry. Sacred, basically, trees had the power of life and death, and that if someone kills a bird perched on a holy tree, they would soon die. That is a direct, basically, quotation. And you could see basically the reflection of life in Kurdish costume and the carpets and the rugs that are called basically the tree of life. The veneration of tree is really reflected here in this rug. So Kurdish neighbors claim that Kurds basically fear the trees even more than Allah. Allah is the Almighty God, the God of basically Muslims.
Muslim God.
Yeah, exactly. Some sought actually healing. When I was a child, I don't know, there was basically one in my neighborhood where basically my mother basically took us to be healed. We didn't have any medical doctors if there was a problem or psychological malady of some sort. So trees of life really is not a mythology. It really exists in the Kurdish reality. So the aesthetics and reassessing the connection between the ecosystem and language is realized through ontological systems. In our presentation, and I talked about this with Ali, it is a kind of a grand discourse, which is philosophically called summum genius, or a Latin-based expression. It includes all linguistic categories such as labels, realism, metaphor, symbolism. It rises above, and I think nature really is that kind of grand discourse. Poets, writers, artists, civil rights activists reaffirmed the old understanding and veneration in the struggle against basically ecocide. And that is a struggle that is going on in Iran, Iraq, Turkey, and Syria. For those of you who may not know, the Kurdish land, homeland, the nature has been divided among four states, and none of those states are friendly towards basically the Kurds, and they have a hostile, basically, relationship. Holiday, who is a prominent linguist, famously has said that destruction of spaces, pollution, and the like are not just problems for the biologists and physicists, they are problems for applied linguistic community as well. And that is why, we are interested. That is why this topic is relevant to us. So just to give you a little background, obviously this is a new field. Mizban et al. In the study of lexicons related to domesticated animals, and by the way, Ali basically is far more advanced in his ideology of, the Kurdish began, if I'm not mistaken, in Mesopotamia, the animal husbandry.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so we are considered to be the first, basically, to develop that kind of animal husbandry.
Animal husband, I'm sorry, and some researchers, they believe the agriculture, agriculture, and the base comes from there. Yeah,
Exactly.
right now they call it
between the two rivers,
between Frat and
Euphrates and Tigris.
And tigers, yeah, and that's why they call it the cradle of civilization, quote unquote, Kurdish area and Assyrian area. Yeah.
Exactly. So as you could see, if there are many words for basically, if there is an elaborate vocabulary, there is a historical, basically, continuity and connection. I don't know about continuity, but the connection. In northern basic Kermanji, which is one of the main varieties spoken by more than 80% of the population, and a study was done by Mizban, and this was in northeastern Iran, rather than in the geographical proximity or contiguity of the Kurdish homeland, and the analysis led to an elaborate classification system. I mean, this is grammatical system. I'm not going over this. Age and gender distinction when it comes basically to cows, sheep, goats, and dogs. There was color, basically, distinction of domestic animals. And this is a 2023 actually study. And there is also animal verbal distinctions when it comes to basically verbs such as sleep, eat, mate, or to give birth, to abort, and to die. So different, basically, animals of different ages, have different, basically, words describing them. There was additional information about where they live and how they live. Everything basically has a name. Grammatically, lexicalized, in other words, connection basically with animals and the plants and the life. So this comes not from my own or Ali's research. This is really a translation. I just added basically a column. So it's Mizban's work. Karim Chamara analyzed Dervishian's novels in Discourse of Power. And Kurdish ego poetry in English is limited to comparisons between American and Kurdish sceneries and themes in poetry. So nothing really profound or ecolinguistically has been really done. So how do we define eco poetry? I don't know if Ali has anything to add to this. We consider it a conscious effort not only to bring the beauty of nature, but to challenge the dominant discourses and global indifference as shown basically in these examples that you're going to provide. Ali, do you have a different definition of eco-poetry?
Not really, but in Kurdish language, any words, when you go back to the history of the language of Kurds, especially Kalhuri, because Kalhuri and Lor, lack, not Sorani or Kurmanj. You can find exactly the word they call it Wurdaho, means the words create weather, create water, between
Right.
weather and water in Kalhuri language. Yeah, I mean in
Right.
Kermanshah language.
Obviously, Kurds are not alone, but definitely this connection has existed. But it is more observable, if basically nature does not really become politicized, or it has to remain depoliticized, so to speak, for everyone to enjoy. But definitely, Kurds have created these basically iconic representations of nature as well. So, for instance, Goran, who is really known as a contemporary poet, really, he has a poem that is filled with metaphors that he wouldn't use the word metaphor. These are basically Western conceptions. Kurdistan, you are my abid of thousands of years. I've been nurtured by these valleys, summits, and hammocks. My breath is full of the fragrant breeze of your heights. My lips are satiated by your snow waters. My gaze is used to the sight of silvery twilights reflecting on evening snows. My ears are habituated to the music of your waterfalls. Pouring down from high quarters above snow to green landscapes, my tongue bloomed with your beautiful speech, mountain songs, the words of folk tales told around fireplaces, the words of your children's lullabies. When blood stirs in my veins, it does so under the power of your love. I know your love. My mother and mother of my fellow race was bequeathed to me from my ancestors, and it will be inhabited by sons and grandsons as long as a Kurd survives in these high mountains. So this is a contemporary poem by Goran, who really laid the foundation for new modern
No way.
Kurdish
Yeah.
poetry. This is by Sherko Bekas. We have translated him, Sherko Bekas, Ali and I, 1940 2013. And this is called The Soil. With my hand I reached for the branch recoiled from excruciating pain. When I reached for the branch, the stem of the tree cried out in pain. When I embraced the trunk of the tree, the earth under my feet shook, rocks moaned. When I bent down and picked up a handful of the soil, the entire Kurdistan let out a wail. So obviously, this is in Sorani Kurdish, and these poems, Goran is also in Sorani Kurdish. Definitely, you don't really have the flavor of the language. We have done our best to translate, but any translation is somewhat partial representation. This is by Simina Chaichi, a prominent, basically contemporary poet from my hometown, Sanandaj, Sana'a. She is an activist as well. She was a participant in woman life freedom that brought the Islamic Republic to its knees. I'm a girl from Eastern Kurdistan. With a smile, I shatter the night. The guardians of darkness I will drown in my eyes. From now on, in the name of love, I will bring the messages of new imaginings. I come out at night. In the shadow of day, I will flaunt my height, my heads. My hands are in shackles, but my mind is liberated. If one day the shackles are shattered, no, it is the day of that outcry. So, Simina Chaichi, we also have a video, which we will go to. Hero Korda. Ali, did you want to say anything?
No, that's great. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah. It is.
So,
Yeah.
Hero Korda, on the shore of the warm sea, I stand,
Kurda. I'm
heels.
sorry.
Yes,
You know Kurda.
Korda.
Yeah, that because the proper Kurdish pronunciation. I mean, yeah,
Korda,
Kurda.
yeah.
Yeah, it means Kurda. He is a Kurd. Yeah.
Yeah, hero. So she is really a hero too.
Yeah.
On the shore of the warm sea, I stand, my heels kiss your shores. I lift my dress to my knees. A wave tosses your pearl to me. Stretch out a hand, you grow in me. Turn out the light, we become three.
Yeah.
And captivity, this is Ali and I agreed this was a great poem. Late at night, as if I'm a winter sparrow, your hand draws me from my nest. Your hand, this is in Kermanji, by the way, from Rojava, Western Kurdistan in Syria. Your hand closes around me. Something beats in your hand, and the quiver will remind you for 100 years. This is the kind of quiver that basically Sherko Bek has talked about. I received a letter telling me, you are a child. Is this accolade or insult? I wish I were a child and could listen to the crickets chirp from the foreskin Muhammad, severed, and could wet my bed and raise the soiled sheet as my homeland's flag.
Yeah.
And this is basically Snowing, more a song by a contemporary Kurdish poet. I'm stranded in the canyon of your eyes. Snow is falling rapidly on your eyelashes. The sun deprives my stature of even a rainbow. Autumn takes over the stars too, shakes the light of my dreams leaf by leaf. Winter sets up its tent in my heart. I became the sister of 7 brothers and stories. The cat urinated on my fire, and now only a whale is the king of fires. Now, in terms of the analysis, Ali, feel free. This is basically very cursory. I would say, these poems represent examples. They establish an inseparable linkage between Kurds and nature. These poems are evidence of this, as I said, and they cannot really be representative of northern Kermanji, central Kurdish, and southern Kurdish, but just to give basically the audience a taste. These poems basically, you see a pervasive image of the landscape of Kurdistan. The poets challenge the dominant discourse. The connection is formidable. It's still there between nature and the poets. It is unbroken, even though nature of Kurdistan is ailing under the disfiguring shadow of monstrous colonialism that I believe Delsha Denise would talk about more, how to decolonize basically the environment and the minds. It's not an easy process. Poets draw our attention to Kurdistan and its cultural history, its current vulnerabilities, and the struggle for freedom against ecocide that is happening in everywhere, in Iranian Kurdistan, in the so-called northern Kurdistan in Turkey, in Syria, in Iraq. So the land of waters basically has become really a drought. It has become dry because the inhabitants are being deprived of the water that they have basically a sufficient amount. Yes.
Yeah, the water there has a really important role in the region, and that's why culture and the situation of Kurds, especially culturally, is always talk about water reflected on poetry and painting and any part of arts, because the water is so important, more than petroleum and anything, in for Kurdish people.
That's
Yeah,
true. I read this. This is a new thing. In Iranian Kurdistan, for instance, there are 18 dams that the Islamic Republic has used
that's
to
right. Yeah.
divert basically the water. Even, the Kurds in southern Kurdistan and Iraqi Kurdistan are deprived of the water itself. And the inhabitants of eastern Kurdistan and Iran basically suffer from lack of water. Coleridge has a poem. It says, "Water, water everywhere, but no drop to drink." And that is what the Turkish government did. They basically took Hasan Kef, which is a historical site, and it is buried now underwater. What is being done is really incredible.
Over
This
the
is in
past,
Syria,
yeah, go ahead.
these images. So, going to this is Hasan Kef, a historical site from ancient times. This is where basically it is buried underwater.
Yeah.
The same place, Hasan Kef, is no more. It was by UNESCO announced to be a historical site, but now if you want to see this place, you have to dive in. So these poets communicate with the world at large, Kurdish nature as if it was, they communicate with Kurdish nature as if it was an interlocutor. Sherko Bekas understands the pain of the branch, the massacre of the city of Halabja through chemical gassing. And you mentioned, a few thousands people were killed in 1988, for instance, or how the quiver of a bird will remind one of the immeasurable suffering that one has to go through, or how love finds its way in the warm sea, in the shoots, and kissing from which another love basically is born, or how the innocence, yearning, and dreaming of a child in its natural state is politicized, and the bedsheet of a child becomes hoisted as the flag of a nation, and how a woman challenges the guardians of darkness to be basically drowned in her eyes. This is the lake of Oromia in Iran, between Azerbaijan, Western and Eastern. This is a Kurdish woman playing deaf in mourning. This was the lake in which I swam. As a matter of fact, now it has dried, entirely dried.
Big lake. Yeah.
This is a scene from Halabja. This became iconic, poisoned to death in 1988. So these poets really forged the identities by an intrinsic connection with nature. They communicate the need for transforming against the dominant and anti-nature discourse, and they are against the systems of oppression and death of all living things in the world through metaphors and symbolisms. And we think they are harbingers of basically change, a transformation, and revitalization. Acknowledgement and sources. If you have any questions, please put the questions in chat. We will answer them when the time basically arrives at the end.
Look,
So we have 29 minutes and 21 seconds. Ali, did you want anything to add?
yeah, I think we will have to say that over the past decades, the centralist nationalists built in Iran, in Iran, that centralist and nationalist building project in Iran has aimed not only a Kurdish identity, but also at the deep ecology of belonging, development project, militarize roads and imposed dams have not only altered the region physical landscape, but have served the cultural and ecological memory rooted in the frustration being not only with fire or machinery, but with language. That's so important with language. When no one remembers the native names of trees, when mountains are no longer called in one's own tongue. In this context, Kurdish Green Association in Iran, I wanted to add this one. In Iran, especially Kurdistan of Iran, when I say Iran, I mean Kurdish area, Naniwan, Sanandaj, Sina, and Sakis and Mohabad. They have an association that run with the women, especially in this context. Kurdish Green, they call it Green Association. In Kurdish, they call it Danishtini Souzakan. In Surani language, have emerged not merely to protect nature, but to restore the relation between land and language and life. They stand against forgetting and seek to behind the earth to collective memory. That's why they created. Yeah.
Yes, thank you very much. Definitely, yes, we would continue this discussion hopefully at the end. And now I would like to give the floor to Delsha. But before you begin, I would like basically to say a few words. She is the author, actually, of Shai Maran, the Neolithic Eternal Mother, Love, and the Kurds. I'm not promoting her book, but it would be a great idea if you get her book, Shai Maran. It's a Neolithic Eternal Mother, Love, and the Kurds. It covers one of the earliest ancient figures of Mother Earth, Shai Maran of the Zagros Mountains, which is the crossroad of Iran, Anatolia, and Mesopotamia, and has historically been a melting pot of diverse, basically, groups contributing to the formation of the Kurdish nation. The unique convergence has played a pivotal role in shaping the rich history, culture, language, and the very essence of their homeland. Kurdistan, Shai Maran is the significant religio-cultural symbol serving as a poignant embodiment of this heritage. The book meticulously documents, deconstructs, and interprets Shai Maran's myth and her Neolithic image, recognizing their profound significance and manifestations of the Mother Earth goddess. The study details the philosophy and symbolism of her faith, deciphers the content in the region within the existing pre-Islamic Kurdish religious, namely Alabism, Yaristanism, and Izadism, and Kurdish culture as well. So with that introduction, let me give the floor to Denise. Welcome. Thank you for your contribution. And let me share my screen with you. Do you have a PowerPoint presentation, I would assume?
Yes, I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much for this opportunity, both to you and also the California State University, Long Beach. I'm so afraid to mix up. Today I'm going to talk about the Shah Maran, but as a kind of Mother Earth goddess of Kurdistan, and going through the mytho-linguistic perspective. So before I share my slides, I would like to give a small, short context for that. So this presentation is delves into myth of Shah Maran, which is a half serpent, half women figure and venerated in Kurdish mythology as an ancient embodiment of eternal mother love and divine feminine power. So, drawing on archaeology, mythology, and anthropology, and this research those explores the Shamara myth operates not only as a cultural symbol, but as a living thread in the fabric of Kurdish identity, language, and spiritual consciousness. So my journey began with the etymological inquiry of the Shamaran, breaking into three parts, which I will share on the slides as well, and goes to Kayanyan. And following that, I will have like a few other terms that use as a divinities among the Kurdish religious history. So before that, I would like to share that this research is actually I develop a particular methodology to work on that, which I call mythoethnography, which means that I use myth as an ethnographic field, and by going through the ethnography myth and deconstructing the myth and then checking with the comparative mythology and Kurdish culture altogether and to analyze all this. So yeah, I will go and then to share my screen. Just let me. Okay. Okay. So again, thank you very much once more, and welcome to Myth of Kurdistan. And before that, maybe the audience who are not familiar with where is the Kurdistan. This is Kurdistan actually, the biggest part, like 43 or 8% of the Kurdish land occupied by Turkish state, and then Iran and Iraq and also Syria. So also some part of in Armenia as well. So that is how our faith and suffer starts with those artificial the borders that we disconnect us from each other. Anyway, I will go. So as you, I don't know how many you are familiar with the Kurdish context. Kurds are culturally and linguistically very distinct from the neighbors, Arabs and Turks. And as Mahradat Izadi, the Kurdish historian, says, Kurdish history has no beginnings, and because they have been autochthon people of this land, and people who traveled or take refuge on this land, they are sort of melted into each other and created the present modern Kurdish nation. So we call it like proto-Kurds and Kurds as well. So the Kurds, therefore, because being in this land and they're always in this land, they have a huge connection with the land and very strong and very rich cultural communication and heritage that actually preserved both in the land and land in the culture as well. So they're both like interactively connected to each other. So first, when I started to work on that, so I started, of course, with the, like my main aim was to deconstruct both the image and the myth, because there is an image, which is this one, and this can be different colors and, you know, all this, but the shape of the image hasn't been changed. But also there's a certain myth attached to it, despite we have like several versions of the myth. So the characteristics of myth, they're like a certain structure, never change, but the versions can have like different minor changes in the story. So therefore, I will tell you the structure, main structure of the myth, but based on the different version can be changed, but structure has always remained the same. So when I started with that, the first, the Shah Maran, although presently they use like Shah Maran, which I refuse to use because Shah is like a Persian version, which is also attached to when they change the sacred meaning of it to the present, maybe secular form of ruling. That's why I oppose it, because in Kurdish language, you do not have Shah, because Shah is the ruler, like related Persian, which is also has very much connection with the oldest form of it, because the Kurds, Medes, through the Medes, they kept the Shah as a sacred feminine divinity, while Persian, through the Zoroastrianism, they changed the Shah into present ruler, and then the Persian ruler used the Shah so as well. So that is in Kurdish. Both we don't use Shah, but also politically, I do not like to use term of Shah because change the total meaning of the word as well. So and then the Shah, okay. Shah is, when I started research on it, the Shah actually goes to the Kayanian. When I look at the Encyclopedia of Islamic Encyclopedia in Turkish version, and it says like anything related to the Kayanian. So that's how I went to. So then research on it. Yes, indeed, the Kayanian sort of the main source of the Shah, because Kayanian, they do not have any written like documents right now. So in the academia, they use like a legendary. So this is another kind of like colonization way of looking at issue. If you don't have any like written documents, then you become legendaries, means you are not really can be trusted on, which is, as anthropologists, I really strongly oppose this way, because many indigenous, nearly all the indigenous sources, they have like oral tradition, they sort of preserve their history, culture, language, and so on. So that's language is the main source of this preservation. It's archived. So for instance, the English, maybe language is language, but for us it's not just language, it's also an archive, it's our library. So that's why it's very important. That's why colonialists, they first attack the language, they ban the language, because when you ban the language, you means that you making genocide of culture, history, and their archive as well. So that's why we should really be very careful and very protective to language as well. So coming back to the Shah Maran, Shah the first is in written form. We have like in Avesta, the Zoroastrian sacred textbook, and it's called like Shaya or Shayatia or Shaya. So nearly all the male or female, I don't mainly male, the scholars who actually translated this term, they translate as ruler, lord, or king, or something like this. But the only person who actually did not that was like Mary Boyce, who was one of the most prominent scholar on Zoroastrian religion, and says, no, Shaya is not linked to the king or ruler. She is connected to the mother goddess Armaiti, or somehow to pronounce it in English. So the Armaiti is the body of the earth, the protector of the earth, and also protector of the women as the life-giving sources. So you see, that's how political as well, both in patriarchal way and also in colonial. Yeah, patriarch is colonial way. Let's merge together. So therefore, in Kurdish background, the actually literature or poem that actually Amir just voiced, you can see that actually the background in Jungian term, the collective unconscious is there, because the Kurdish mind, Kurdish collective unconscious still have this, preserve this background. So coming to this mytholinguistic of the Shah Maran. So you see, we have like two different things. One, image. Luckily, we have image, which is, we say, from Neolithic and based on the archaeologists. Most prominent archaeologists of like goddess studies is the Maria Gimbutas. Maria Gimbutas says like the snake goddess, one of the oldest form of the goddess, mother goddess, and explain that mainly is like illustrated as like without arms and legs, maybe in sex forms. And also she mostly have half woman, half snake, and other decoration like snake coil forms and so on. So whatever she says, actually we can exactly see on this image of Shamaran as well. And Shamaran, I think, is very unique that preserved until now, because the curves are so focused on this oldest religion. That's why I oppose, for instance, some Kurds. They assume that the before the Islam, they converted to Islam, they were like Zoroastrian, which is not. That actually Kurds did not accept the Zoroastrian. That how they actually existed without assimilated by the Persian, which is like thousands of years, they have been dominated over the Kurds as well. So because Medes, one of the biggest group that ancestor of the Kurds are Medes, and Medes were so focused on their previous religion, which they resisted the Zoroastrian. As you know, some of you, Zoroaster himself was half Medes as well, from the dynasty of the Medes. But Medes, they didn't really follow the Zoroastrians. Anyway, coming back to mytholinguistic, I will briefly explain the myth. Myth is like there is a boy who was orphan, has older mother, and he's like 14, 15 years old, and they're so poor. He wants to go to the woodland and then cut some wood and sell and then make living for that. So, and then he does. He goes one day, is in woodland, and then there's a storm, and he just run in a cave in order to sort of get wait for a time until storms pass away. And while he's waiting there, he's like just playing on the ground with his stick, some says with the axe, and then suddenly he discovers a flat stone. When he lifts up the stone, and he found that like a huge things down there, and then in some version he's with his two friends, in some version he will call them later, but then they discover that these are like a full of the honey, and then they decide to sell the honey, so that for days they will go forth and back with the town and selling the honey, and then in the end, so someone has to go down and then get the rest of the honey in the bottom of the jar, and then so the in some way he called like Jamasp, some Tamas, some Jan, or it depends. This way goes down, and then he scratches the all and then stands up, and then these two friends decide to leave him down there and then to take his share as well. So they keep him there and then put this stone on top, and then they leave. So he was there, is a kind of like waiting for death. Suddenly one of the scorpion like come into the jar in a like crack, and then he kills the scorpion, and then widens the crack, and then goes up, down, and then goes down, and find out that a beautiful garden. And then he just feel asleep there. Suddenly wake up at like being surrounded by many snakes, and on the top there's a like beautiful half snake, half woman, which is Shamaran. And then he scares over there. Shaman says, "You shouldn't be scared. We are not going to harm you, but you cannot go back, because as humans discover where we are, they will come and kill me and my people. So, but you can stay with us." So he stays with them for a while, and then he's homesick. And one day she lets him go, but on conditions, as you should not tell our place where we are, but you should not bath in at hammam, because whoever saw me, and when their body touched the water, there will be like snake coil on their body, on their skin, so and so on. So he's go back. He's away to bathing in the public, and then in order to that moving like to a like distance place in order to be kept away from the people's eyes. But then in the meantime, there is like a king's, in some version, his daughter. So he's fatally ill that the only the medicine is like in some versions flesh of her or birth of her whatsoever, but Shamaran. Anyway, they will check with the people. They're forcing them to get hammam, and then so to find out whoever saw her. And in the end, they found this boy as well. So they bring him to hammam and then find out he has seen her and forcing him. And in the end, like death threat, that he remembered that Shamaran told him, if in case of death threat, you can tell my places. He says, and then they will find her and then take her out. And on the way back, she tells him that, okay, if they ask you to kill me, say no, I don't want to kill. I found that you can kill, so they do. And then there was like three kind of broad green, yellow, and white. So the white is the wisdom, and yellow is the healing, and the green is the killing power of her. So whoever drink what, so there will be like consequences for. In the end, magically the boy drinks the white one, become like some version. They said Lokmane Hakim is one of the immortal medicine man, and the yellow is drunk by the king or daughter, whoever is ill, and the green one is drunk by the cynical vizier that who wants to kill the boy and the the king and then take the power. Okay, this is the myth, very briefly, and this is the image. So they are together. So when I started to deconstruct both myth and the image, so I started with the image, actually, with the myth. So when I check with the cave, because there is a cave, they start from the cave, like the entrance of the myth as well, and then there is a flat stone, and then honey and jar, and then a position in the jar, and then the scorpion, and then shell coming out, and so on. Anyway, but then when I started to research on that, I found out that cave was actually considered in the comparative mythology was like a kind of womb or vulva of the mother goddess, mother earth goddess. So you see, it's so logical, and then going to that. And then flatstone is like a kind of resembling the navel point of her stomach, her belly, you know. And then you go down, there's that like a jar, and then the boy in it, because the honey also in Kurdish culture is very sacred sort of material, but also is related to the position of the mother goddess and the queen of the bees, and the position of the bees in this like certain the honey form, I forget the name anyway. But also in this position of, if you imagine that there's in the jar a boy over there, is like exactly similar to the seed. If you look at that seed when you plant it in the earth and its position, and then suddenly the scorpion in Kurdish culture, at least the part I am from, there was no connection with this scorpion, because through the time, some part of images, or let's say the elements, can be lost. And then, but in Zoroastrian text, scorpion is the sort of animal that attacking the fertility organs or seeds of the bulls, which bulls are actually the symbolic of the fertility as well. So that's mean the scorpion was attacking the boy's fertility. So because boy is seed there, and this is also explained when they planted in Neolithic era, some seeds didn't come back. So this is a kind of explanation for that, because scorpion actually attacked it. But in the end, and the boy killing the scorpion, and then like a seed, like a root of the germination process of a seed, and like cracking the shell and going down as a root, and then meeting the goddess, and then coming up. there in the life. So you see, there's a kind of understanding of Neolithic era, how the life cycle actually going on. So the myth were actually explaining that, and there are lots of like connection inside the culture as well, because the city I come from, for instance, the cave were also a kind of sacred place that people go there and sort of asking for blessing for the children as well. That makes more sense right now. And if you look at the honey, that is like a mother queen. In Kurdish, we call it Shaheng, means the Shah of the honey. Hanguv is the honey. So you see, like, how connection is that. Beside that, there's another form used for that is called the anach. Anach is like, although now in Turkish is anach means something, but anach actually in Kurdish is means the animals who actually reproduce through the eggs, like the bees or chicken or any animal. So, and then egg, through the actually comparative mythology, you see that is also symbol of the mother goddess as well. So in any connection, you can see that's how connected to the mother goddess. And jar, if you look at jar, is that seed, is that shell of the seed. It's exactly the same position. And so, and then, because then we go to death, when I check with that, because the burial of death in Kurdistan and also in Anatolia and so on, because whenever you bury a new body in the earth, so it's like a belly, like a pregnant woman or belly, and then the axis is between west and east. So the legs goes the east, and the head comes to west, because then whenever like the sun rose, and then the first lights come onto the face of the dead, but then this is a kind of blessing for the regeneration as well. So, and then the pregnancy, and it's very important, and for the reincarnation, which is pre-Islamic Kurdish religion, are mainly based on the reincarnation, and that's why there is no reference to any like gender specific word in religious context, because it's not important being like women or man or female or male or being plant, or and also in this kind of religion there is no hierarchy between the human and animal and so on, because it's all a form of the same thing, that you are belong to the same trajectory. And therefore, for instance, in Kurdish Alevi faith, your soul, like the soul, like goes die and reborn is like 1,000 times, and 1,001 you become like a human, perfect human being, and then you become part of this holy body, which is the mother goddess actually. And in Kurdish religion, pre-Islamic Kurdish religion, the nature worship is like 80%, 70% of it. So they go somewhere like called ziyaret, and they is a kind of like the certain spots, they actually contact with this holy body, the huge and the great mother of their all. So that is how actually it's worked. So, and then when I started with the image, if you look at the image, so the crown, so it is like two crowns over here, one on snake side and one on female side, women's side. So interestingly, I don't know if you felt that, but straight away you feel that the snake part is masculine, in a form masculine. How? Because of decoration, because of the position that is positioned, and also if you look at the women's side, the decoration is much more sort of in detail, so more decorated. So, and then because this tells you which head is the most prominent one, so that you understand the feminine part is important. I also should add that in mother goddess position, before they turn into human form, they mostly was in animal and human conjunction, which also tells us that they're one of the most ancient one, because the until 3000 BCE, they were like in this form, and then they started to become totally in human form, but then become like the consorts, like the pairs, like mother and son, or husband and wife, or brother and sister. You can see that through the history. But until then, this is the one of the oldest form. You can see that. And then if you look at the horns, there are like two kind of horns, and one in insect antenna, like resembles the insects antenna of insects, and the second is like ram-shaped horns. The horns through the history are the actually symbol of the fertility, as we see in, for instance, Çatalhöyük. If I put here, okay,
Dasha,
yeah.
you should forgive me for interrupting you.
Yeah.
Your time is up. As a matter of
Really?
fact, I've been sending through chat. So if you could conclude, and then let's open the floor for the questions.
Okay, so I will just a few more. Okay, then if you look at here, there's like the eyes here. This is like her eyes that actually will now exist as the because of the demonization, they are now turned into evil eyes. But okay, I forget here. The so it's a kind of like symbol of wisdom, and also like protection to whoever, your children. And then coming down, these like beads is actually the symbol of the seeds. And also heart shape is the sacred triangle, which is symbol of the fertility, and mother goddess is actually coming from the sorry, oh, pardon me. Okay, what I did. Okay. Yeah, this is the, if you see here, this is actually the pubic part of the femininity, and it's turned like now is like a kind of symbol of the heart, which is not true. And so this in the history, you see that this was her symbol. So the heart shape also the symbol of fertility, and the zigzag, this decoration, as Maria Gimbuta says, is a symbol of the snake goddess and her movement and so on. And then last one, because the rose here, rose in Kurdish is gul. Actually, in Kurdish, pre-Islamic Kurdish religions, at least in Alevism, there is like the name of the prayer is gulbang, means the gul rose, and bang means the call of the gul, and gul is also one of her epithet as well. So gul is also the symbol of her, that she is the mother of the whole nature, the plants as well. If you look at here, there's plants, animals, and human all in one body, which is in Alevi terminology, this is like called mahbuwahdati wujud, means the unity of the body. This is all the actually symbol of the Mother Earth goddess. I will stop here. Thank you so much for
Thank you
listening.
very much. That was wonderful. Definitely you deserve more time, but unfortunately, we are running out of time. So since we began about 5 minutes basically late, I would suggest to the Zoom captain, Debbie, to give us about 10 minutes for any questions that the audience may have. Let me just read the first question. Feel free basically to respond. So the questions that we have. So one of the questions basically is, will the presence and practice of Mazdaism in pre-Islamic Kurdish communities be talked about? Have you talked about that today? And it's linked to the sanctity of nature through Izad, meaning basically the good God.
God.
Yes, and that sort. And thanks in advance. If anyone would like to tackle that question.
What was the question
Yeah,
exactly?
the maybe formation of the gods. So I didn't have time to explain that because there are like several terms that use in Kurdish in like presently considered as God, at least masculine form. For instance, Khade. Khade means Kha from itself and da give or giving birth. So the terminology that used in Kurdish as like now translated as a god is actually is a goddess because giving birth from is the form of God is like creating from the hands in at least Abrahamic monotheism. But if you look at the Kurdish form, is like giving birth from, it's still there. And again, Khizr or Khweza, Khizr is like now is in a masculine form, but in reality, the anything related to Khizr is related to water, and this is fasted in the beginning of the February, which is end of the death process of the this faith, and then anything related, everything is related to Khuzr is related to water. For instance, the still water, lakes, and in the name of Khuzr. So, which means that Khizr is related to water, and water is typically related to the mother goddess. As you mentioned, that there are lots of like poems related to water in Kurdistan. This is because of this background, because of mother and goddess and the water related to her. And Khizr, for instance, I can connect with the Khaza. Khaza means the nature. Again, Kha, Za, and Za means the birth of giving birth itself. Now, a little bit differentiated with the human birth. The Khwaza means the Za used for animal and water. Interesting. For instance, I don't know if any other language Za is used for water, but in Kurdish, is water give birth. For instance, Avzem means the water who gives the birth are lots of water. So, and if you look at any form of that, in Kurdish is related to the feminine divinity. So although it's not used as a god, but definitely is in feminine form and in the mother goddess.
Very good, Ali. Did
Can
you add?
Huh?
Yeah.
Now, but you're talking to me?
Yeah, I was wondering.
Yeah,
Comment.
the name of Khizr, so in Kermanshah, there is 2 or 3 lakes. They call it Khizr Jinnaw, Khizr Zinde, Khizr creativity. Yes? And so based on water, that's what she said. She's right. But there is a lot of words in Kurdish for God. Khizr, Hira, Hula, Hula, Khuda, Khudi, Yezi, Yaza. This kind of different words is for God. All of them based on material. Hura means sun. Here means Herman means water. Exactly in Kurdish language. Khuda means creative with the material, khudi, and all of them is the same. But I wanted to add to for Dilshad. Yeah, you know, in the east of Kurdistan, I mean the south of east of Kurdistan, I mean the region of Kermanshah and Horamanat, and still, and this time, modern times, even they are Muslim, and their ritual is a Muslim way, Islamic way, but they believe snake, serpent. They believe it. They believe it as a god, as a protector. And if even I remember when I was a so kid, my mother always said, just say hello to this kind of mar. They call it mar, yeah, in a serpent. And still they believe it. And Shah, the word is Shah. One of the meaning of the Shah, not Shah with H, the letter, the end of the letter Ha. Shah in lucky language, means special, special. That's why Shaimaran means special mar, a special serpent. We can interpret it like that, yeah.
I just need to add something. For instance, in Alevi term, I don't know, maybe I think Yarsanis also do this. When they start their ritual, they say Bismillah, in the name of Shah. On the contrary of the Muslims say Bismillah. But in Alevis, they say Bismillah in the name of Shah. Shah is definitely is like the main divine power over there. So
Yeah, exactly, that's right. And special, and also mean king, means best, means highest, and all of it means there is a lot of meaning for it, especially ancient words transferred to modern, and middle is changing like any words with a different concept and different content.
in Kurdish, the king or ruler, they have like Padishah. Padishah means the one who followed the Shah, actually. The Pasha, Padishah are actually also related to the Shah too. And also I would like to add, because the Sharia now is known by Muslim, but Muslim actually colonized when they invaded Iran, because Sharia is nothing to do with the Islam. They is exactly related to this faith and the Shah, the path of the Shah. But they borrowed, because Islam were newly sort of was coming out, so they borrowed and then they colonized it. If you reason I check with what this Sharia means, Sharia actually related to the city, because in Kurdish Shahar also Sharadari, for instance. But then when I checked with the Encyclopedia of Islam, they say anything related to water, still water, or so they borrow from it, but they sort of the total meaning was blurred and erased from the past, and so as if now like only belong to Islam, but Islam actually borrowed this land, and now they change the meaning, and it's
Yeah.
their word. That's why, for instance, Alevi, they have like tariqat, shariat, marifat, and hakikat. Hakikat and marifat, there's like 4 paths for Alevis, but they don't use it because they don't want to be mixed up with the Islamic Sharia, which is like the rule of this path, this beautiful religion that based on love.
Yeah, if I may say something before reading the next question, yeah, definitely, it is a survival basically strategy for Alevism, for instance, or Yaristan, to integrate really the new religion into elements. So that is why we have an eclectic, kind of religion itself. But the core, basically, principles would remain to be Kurdish, and definitely, those communities really deserve a great deal of credibility by the majority of the Kurds who have become really, Muslims, and this decolonization is the process of basically really finding out one's identity before one could basically claim or anything. So one of the questions relates to this notion of identity, which I brought up. Now, this was not really a linguistic definition. Someone basically asked, I heard Amir claiming that 80% of our language or languages is in Kurmanji rooted. Not that I know how the breakdown is, but I always was under the impression that Sorani was a bit more popular than the other languages. Obviously, you are more than welcome to comment on this, but I would say popularity is different. Sorani is spoken by a minority of basically Kurds, and it is very popular, but it doesn't mean that it is democratically basically chosen to be really the standard. So that struggle continues, but I would say the great majority of Kurds basically speak Kurmanji. I don't know the exact basically breakdown, but probably 85%. And the rest would be divided among, Zazaki, the Horami, and Sorani, Central Kurdish. The rest would be Northern Kurdish, which is Kurmanji.
I heard like 3
Correct. Yeah. It's just I think is 80% is really is not 80%, because there is a Zazaki, there is a lot of dialect in Kurmanji. They think they are, especially Kurmanji in in Khorasan, in east of Iran. They call it, they call themselves, we are not Kurmanj, we are Harfaranlo. That's one dialect of Kurmanj. Some of them, not all of them. There is a lot of tribes there. I've been there. Yeah, that's what I mean. It is 80% not, but yeah, Kurmanj is a has a is a biggest and huge crowded people.
So anyway, I do have some encouraging comments about basically your participation and contribution to the panel from both of you. And I think that should bring us to the end of this panel if there are
Yeah.
no additional questions.
Can I just a few words
Yes.
about the religion, and mostly they call us like syncretic religion, like Alevism, Yarsanism, which is not correct, because the most syncretic religions are Islam, the Abrahamic mode, and particularly Islam and Christianity, because they sort of collected all from other previous religion and then as if their own. But in Alevism only, because as a survival strategy, they use like only a few names of the Islamic people, like Muhammad, Ali, and his two sons and his wife, except Muhammad, and four of them were actually killed by Muslims. So you see that in order to survive, they had to provide some strategies. And the syncretic form in Alevism, which is through the Bektashism that Ottoman used to Alevi philosophy mixed with the Islamic teaching, and to Islamize the Balkans country, because otherwise they wouldn't be Islamized, because they use like beautiful philosophy of the Alevism. So the Alevi religion is not syncretic, and they are one of the most sort of solid or pure religion. And I assume that Yarsanism, also Edism is the same. So it's not syncretic. I really truly oppose this view.
Okay, thank you very much. Definitely, everyone wants access to the recording. I have no idea how this would be possible. It should be possible. Hopefully, we would make the recording possible for those who attended and those who were not able to attend. With that, I thank you all, the participants for participating, the organizers, and Debbie for being the Zoom captain. We appreciate your contribution to the ecological really effort that is not only local but global.
Thank you.